Alright, what's going on, guys? Been a while since I made a video. We're going to keep this one short and sweet. As you can tell, I reorganized the shelves again a little bit, so everything kind of got moved down. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up where we left off. We're going to talk about some Jedi Mind tricks, and then I'm going to pull a few random albums that I've added to the collection since then. First album we're going to talk about is Slaine, White Man is the Devil, Volume 1. Slaine is a white rapper out of Boston. I think he's actually a really incredible lyricist. He's known mainly, I think, for working with like Ill Bill and being a part of La Coca Nostra, but he has some really solid, dope solo material. None of it has lived up to as good a rapper as I think he is. Like, I don't think the music reflects how nice of a rapper he is, but he does have some really enjoyable solo shit. And that was a good starting point. Production wasn't great on it, but his rapping is phenomenal. This was one of the most slept on albums when it came out. This was released on Duck Down. This is Slaine, Edo G, and J. Special Teams, Stereotypes. Got some great production from DJ Premier has a beat on there. I think Pete Rock might have a beat on there. But this is just some solid throwback boom bap hip hop. And like I said, incredibly slept on record. I think it's solid front to back. A lot of people missed out on this one. So if you guys get a chance, you run across Special Teams, definitely check that out. Whitey Ford Sings the Blues. I just recently listened to the podcast episode. Open Mike Eagle has a podcast called What Had Happened Was. He had Dante Ross on there, and Dante talked about the making of this album, which kind of made me appreciate it a lot more. It's best known for the song What It's Like. Everybody's probably heard it on the radio 1,000 times by now, but it's actually a really solid, well put together album, very experimental, a lot of really great songwriting on here. I'm not a huge Everlast fan, but I do appreciate this, and after having listened to that podcast, I'm really excited to go back and check that out again. This was Jedi Mind Tricks' first album. I'm not even going to try on the title. Psychosocial, chemical, you know. This is a decent album. It's definitely a product of its time. It's very rapidy rap, very RZA inspired production from Stoupe. I guess for those not familiar with Jedi Mind Tricks, they're best known as a duo for the most part. Stoupe, the Enemy of Mankind, is the producer. Vinny Paz is the rapper. Later on, they'll add another member, Just Allah, but as of right now on this album, it's just the duo. And this is a cool record. It's a lot like Atmosphere's first album in that it's very underground, very backpack, but it did lay the groundwork, and there are some really solid songs on that. And then Violent by Design, which many people consider to be the underground Illmatic. I don't rank it as highly as that. I do think it's a classic record. This was the album that saw them add Just Allah as the third member. Production on it is immaculate. A lot of great guest features. They got Mr. Liff on here. And yeah, this is definitely a legendary underground album. If you haven't heard it, it's a great starting point. You know, fantastic atmospheric production. Really raw, hardcore rhyming. That's one to check for sure. The follow-up saw Just Allah leave the group, so we're back to just Stoupe and Vinny Paz. But this one was a really great album. I didn't appreciate it as much when it came out, but going back to it now, I think it's held up really well. It's got a lot of really great fucking legendary guest features. Cool G Rap's on here. Percy P's on here. Just a really Raz Kaz is on there. That's a really dope album. Very polished. I think the style Vinny Paz uses on this one isn't as good as what was on Violent by Design, but it's still an incredibly well put together album and definitely a sleeper in their catalog. I don't collect a lot of singles, but this one I got strictly because it has Cool G Rap on it. Animal Rap was one of my favorite songs off that Visions of Gandhi, which we just talked about. This one has some dope remixes on it. So yeah, I don't have a lot of singles, but every once in a while, I'll find something interesting and I'll snatch it up. Legacy of Blood. probably my least favorite from that early output of Jedi Mind Tricks. Guest features aren't as good. Production's still immaculate. Stoupe is one of the greatest underground producers ever, but this one just kind of felt like more of the same. Going back to it, I think it is a decent album, but it's not one that I would recommend you start with. I think if you're already a fan of them and you're looking for more, this is definitely going to give you more. It's kind of a continuation of Visions of Gandhi. It's just not as good, in my opinion. This one, Servants in Heaven, Kings in Hell, might be my favorite Jedi Mind Tricks album. It's probably best known for the song Uncommon Valor, which has that legendary Ari the Rugged Man verse. Sean Price has a feature on there. Ill Bill's on there. This one just saw... Vinny Paz has some of his best songwriting on here. He has a lot of great concepts on here. Stoupe's production is varied and kind of experimental for him. And I think if you're looking to get into Jedi Mind Tricks, this one is probably the best album you could start with. Violent by Design is their crown jewel. That is their classic. But for me, this is just their most well-rounded, well-put-together album. Divine Fire, Story of Jedi Mind Tricks. This was like a little documentary that kind of followed their career. I believe it also has a second disc of like greatest hits. I could be mistaken. It's been a while since I've opened this up. But that was interesting. It was fun to watch. Kind of fun to see Vinny Paz backstage, get a feel for what they're really like. A History of Violence was notable because it saw Just Allah return to the group. Production on this one is incredible. Very, very dark. I love the beats on it. The rapping is kind of hit or miss. I think by this point, Just Allah had fallen off. A lot of his rhymes are kind of corny. His voice is somewhat grating. Vinny Paz isn't really doing much to improve that. He's kind of just resting on his laurels a little bit and just spitting some basic hardcore shit. But it is sonically a great album, and I do appreciate it for what it is. Now this one was the first Jedi Mind Tricks album released without any production by Stoupe. This is still Vinny Paz and Just Allah, but Stoupe has gone, so the production is handled by other people. I can't remember who all did the production on here, but I would go as far to say that this is probably the worst Jedi Mind Tricks album. The rapping on this one's not great. The production is really not great. It's very, very basic by the numbers, and I never really enjoyed that one. Just Allah would leave the group, Stoupe would come back, and we would get this, which is a return to form. This is The Thief and The Fallen. And this one, man, was like, it really felt like a comeback for them. It felt like a natural progression of everything they were doing on Servants in Heaven, and it's a fantastic record. And, you know, this one is kind of a continuation of that, The Bridge and the Abyss. They're really like a 1-2 punch. Both of them build on the early Jedi Mind Trick sound. It takes them into exciting new directions, and I think they're both fantastic records. I think you can't go wrong with either one of those. Heavy Metal Kings, Black God, White Devil. This is the second Heavy Metal Kings album, which is Ill Bill and Vinny Paz. This is exactly what you would expect from them. Very hardcore, very blunt, boom bap, atmospheric. Gore-Tex is featured all over this one, which I think was a great addition. I think Gore-Tex sounds fantastic alongside those guys. This one's a really solid album, especially if you're a fan of either of those guys. If you're a fan of Ill Bill, if you're a fan of Jedi Mind Tricks, Vinny Paz, you're going to enjoy this one. Conceptually, it doesn't offer a lot, but it is just some raw, hardcore hip-hop. Just Allah's debut album, which was a misfire in every possible way. Production is weak. The rhyming is terrible. I really didn't find anything that I enjoyed about this one, which kind of sucks because originally he had songs over like Blue Sky, Black Death production, and for whatever reason the original deal fell apart. The original album got shelved, and we got this on Baby Grand, and this one is definitely a weak album. I would not recommend that to even the most hardcore fans. Stoupe released his one and only solo debut album. It has him working with a bevy of other rappers. Joel Ortiz is on there, M.O.P., Block McCloud, Just Allah, Saigon's on there, Slaine, Superstition. This one's great. It's just really, really short. It's only 10 tracks. I wish we would have gotten more out of Stoupe. He is notoriously reclusive. He doesn't work with a lot of people. But this really showcased the potential of what some really dope MCs would sound like over his production. I wish we would have gotten more. This was another Stoupe album. I can't remember who he's working with on this one, but it's kind of like a pop R&B album. This is Dutch. He has a few of those projects where he works with like singers. They're very interesting. I don't think they're going to appeal to like the hardcore hip-hop Jedi Mind Tricks fans. But if you're open-minded and you're looking for something different to listen to, Dutch is definitely an interesting listen. Snatch some stuff off the shelf now. These two I just recently copped. This is Med featuring Guilty Simpson, Child of the Ghetto. I haven't had a chance to listen to that yet. And then I have Med, Blue, and Madlib, his Bad Neighbor. This is another one. I haven't had a chance to listen to either of these yet. I just recently added them to the collection. But I am a fan of Med. I think a lot of people sleep on him. He's not the most talented MC, but I think he's very capable. Obviously, I love Guilty Simpson. I love Madlib, and I love Blue. So there's a lot there for me to look forward to, I think. This one I've seen around quite a bit. Lawless Element. It's a group out of Detroit. I see this album everywhere. I never had a chance to listen to it, and it was like $4 on eBay, so I went ahead and snatched it up. I listened to it a little bit in the car a few days ago, and it's solid. It's a solid album. I need to sit down and spend more time with it, but it is interesting. It didn't blow me away, I will say that. I didn't think anything about it really stood out specifically, but I enjoyed what I heard, and I need to spend more time on it. And then finally, I think I showed you guys last time I had the Yancey Boy instrumentals. I finally picked up the album. Yancey Boys is J Dilla's younger brother, Illa J, rapping and singing over some of his unreleased production. It's not a great album, but it's more J Dilla beats, and I'm always down for more Dilla beats. I can't remember if I showed this one off or not, and if I did, I apologize, but this is Frank and Dank, a duo that J Dilla produced for. They're not overly incredible rappers. I'm not going to try to sell you on a dream with them, but this was interesting just because it was more Dilla production, and that's quite honestly the only reason it's in my collection. It's another Slum Village album I added to the collection. I think I told you guys back when I did the Slum Village episode, I'm not super hip to a lot of their work, but I'm trying to dig in more, trying to educate myself more. I enjoy everything I've heard from them, and I haven't had a chance to listen to this one yet, but I'm excited. And then finally, one of my grails. I have been searching for this CD since it came out. I've never been able to find it. This is Oh No vs. Percy P. It's a remix of Percy P's Perseverance album that Oh No did. And it's just been impossible for me to find for a decent price. And then I finally stumbled across it, and I got this for like $15, guys. Like, I just kept digging, kept looking, and I finally found it. And I was so excited to add that to the collection. And that is definitely one of my grails, definitely one of the highlights. And yeah, I can't even tell you how excited I was to add that to the collection. And yeah, like I said, guys, we're going to keep this one short and sweet. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. We finished Jedi Mind Tricks. Next time, it looks like we are going into some Army of the Pharaohs, Army of the Pharaoh affiliates, some J-Zone records. There's going to be a lot of dope shit we're coming across. Hopefully it doesn't take me as long to get the video up next time. But yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for checking it out.